Before dinosaurs, one giant reptile turned its own face into a weapon. More than 250 million years ago, the world looked nothing like it does today. There were no forests of familiar flowering plants, no birds filled the skies, and dinosaurs had not yet appeared. Instead, enormous herbivorous reptiles moved slowly across ancient floodplains. Among the strangest were the pareiasaurs, and one of them looked almost as if evolution had built a living shield. Its name was Scutosaurus, the shield lizard. Around 8 feet long and heavily built, Scutosaurus carried a massive rounded body on powerfully muscled, sprawling limbs. It was not designed for speed. It was built like a tank. But the most remarkable part of this animal was not its enormous body. It was its head. The snout was blunt and broad, with a wide mouth adapted for feeding on tough vegetation. Inside were teeth unlike those of modern grazing mammals. They were serrated and leaf-shaped in profile, structures suited to biting and processing plant material. And that was important, because the Permian landscape was not exactly an easy buffet. Plants such as ferns, horsetails, and other tough vegetation could provide plenty of food, but extracting energy from low-quality plants required something more. It required a huge digestive system. Scutosaurus may have carried an enormous abdomen, turning its massive body into a living fermentation chamber for processing difficult vegetation. But then comes the mystery. Why would a plant eater need armor? Across its body were bony structures, spikes, bosses, and horn-like projections. Some appeared around the cheeks, others developed around the nose and lower jaw. And here is where the story becomes even stranger. Some of these structures seem to have developed with age. That means a young Scutosaurus may not have looked like the heavily armed adult it eventually became. Evolution was not simply building armor. It was building armor that changed as the animal grew. Why? One possibility was defense. A mature Scutosaurus would have been an enormous target in a dangerous ecosystem. Large therapsids and early archosaurs were already part of the Permian world, and a slow-moving herbivore could hardly rely on speed to escape every attack. A face covered in projections could make an attacker think twice, but there may have been another explanation. The spikes may have been weapons in conflicts between members of the same species. If adults fought over territory, food, or mates, exaggerated facial structures could have helped males intimidate rivals or advertise their strength. And if that was true, the strangest parts of Scutosaurus were not necessarily armor at all. They may have been signals. A visual announcement that said, "I am an adult, I am strong, and you should not challenge me." This is one of evolution's recurring tricks. A structure can begin with one function and become useful for another. Defense, display, competition. Sometimes all three. And Scutosaurus was not alone in this strange Permian experiment. Elsewhere in the ancient world lived a completely different kind of reptile. Small, aquatic, and almost perfectly designed for life underwater. These were the Mesosaurs. They belonged to an early branch of reptile evolution and lived during the Permian. Their bodies tell a very different story from the massive pareiasaurs. Mesosaurs had elongated jaws lined with needle-like teeth. Instead of chewing vegetation, they likely used their jaws and teeth to capture tiny aquatic prey, including small fish and arthropods. Their tails were shaped like paddles. Their fingers and toes were webbed. And their ribs were unusually thick. Together, these adaptations would have helped them remain submerged and maneuver through the water. Two very different animals, one enormous and heavily armored, the other small, streamlined, and aquatic. Yet both revealed the same extraordinary truth. The Permian was not simply a waiting room before the dinosaurs, it was an evolutionary laboratory. Animals were experimenting with armor, with massive herbivore bodies, with aquatic hunting, with specialized teeth, with structures that appeared only when an animal reached adulthood. And then, near the end of this extraordinary chapter, everything changed. The Permian world suffered one of the greatest biological crises in Earth's history. The ecosystems that had produced pareiasaurs, mesosaurs, and countless other creatures were devastated. The age of these strange reptiles was coming to an end. But evolution did not stop. From the survivors emerged new ecological possibilities. The Triassic world was waiting. And eventually, one group of reptiles would begin a rise that would change the planet forever. The dinosaurs. But before they arrived, creatures like Scutosaurus had already demonstrated one of evolution's most powerful ideas. Survival does not always come from being fast. Sometimes it comes from becoming difficult to attack. Scutosaurus may have looked like a prehistoric tank, but its real story is far more fascinating. Its armor, teeth, massive body, and age-dependent facial structures reveal an animal shaped by a dangerous world. A world where survival could mean chewing tough plants, intimidating rivals, or simply making yourself a harder target. And all of this happened before the first dinosaurs ever walked the earth. The dinosaurs inherited a world already transformed by millions of years of evolutionary experimentation, and Scutosaurus was one of the strange creatures that came before them.